In this video, I want to have a look at factorising non-monic quadratics. So there's a lot of different methods we could use to solve these, to factorise non-monic quadratics. The one I'm going to show you today is a combination of the PSF method that we were using to factorise monic quadratics and also factorising by grouping. So let's have a look at our first example. So our first example asks us to factorise 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. So to do this, like I said, it's going to be a combination of PSF and factorising by grouping. PSF, we'd normally find the product, so two numbers that multiply to give 15 and then add to give 13. Because it's non-monic, because of this 2 out the front, it's going to be a little bit different. So we're still going to do PSF, but our product, instead of just being that 15, is going to be the product of 2 and 15. So we're going to go 2 times 15. So we want a product of 30. Now our sum is going to stay the same. Our sum is that coefficient of x. So we're going to have 13. So we now need to find two numbers that multiply to give 30 and add to give 13. So in our case, those two numbers are going to be 10 and 3. So we found the numbers that we're going to use, but instead of just putting them straight into the brackets this time like we did when it was monic quadratic, we're actually going to split this 13x into a 10x and a 3x. So we're going to rewrite this line. We're going to have equal to 2x squared is going to stay there, plus 10x plus 3x plus 15. So we've rewritten that. We've used our PSF method to split this middle term into 2 terms instead. And now we have 4 terms and we can factorise by grouping. So if we look at our first 2 terms, we're trying to find the common factor in here, which would be 2x. So we're going to pull our 2x out as our common factor. If we divide this one by x, we'll just have 5 left, and this one we'd have x left, and this one we'd have 5. So in our brackets, we're going to have x plus 5. And now we can look at our second 2 terms, or our last 2 terms, and find the common factor in those. So the common factor of 3x and 15 would be 3. So we're going to have plus 3 outside of, and we'd just be left with x plus 5. So now we have 2 terms, and they both have a common factor of that whole bracket of x plus 5. So we're going to pull that out. And then our second bracket is going to be what's left. So that's going to be our 2x plus 3. All right, so that's our first example of factorising non-monic quadratics. Let's have a look at a second one. So this time we're going to have 3x squared minus 16x plus 16. So again, we're going to start off using the PSF method. Now don't forget our product when we're doing non-monic quadratics, we have to multiply our 16 and our 3 together. So that's going to give us 48. We want a sum that's the coefficient of our x term, so that's our minus 16. So we need 2 numbers that multiply to give 48 and add to give minus 16. So that's going to be 12 and 4 in this case, but one of them is going to have to be negative. Oh no, sorry, they're both going to have to be negative. So minus 12 times minus 4 will give us positive 48, and minus 12 minus 4 gives us our minus 16. So that tells us how to split that x term into a minus 12x and a minus 4x instead of a minus 16x. So we're going to split that up. And now that we've split it, we can factorise by grouping. So again, looking at these first 2 terms, our common factor there would be 3x. And we'd have left x minus 4. Now in our second set, our last 2 terms here, we're trying to find the common factor. It could be 4, but because our first term is a negative, we're actually going to pull out minus 4 as our common factor. So if we divide this one by minus 4, we're left with x. And we just have to be careful here. We're going 16 divided by minus 4, so we actually get a minus 4 there. So that's good because that means our 2 sets of brackets are the same, so we can pull that bracket out the front. And in our second bracket, we're going to have our 3x minus 4. Now don't forget, again, you can always check that you have factorized correctly by going through quickly in your head and expanding that out and making sure that you get back to the original question. All right, let's have a look at a few more. So our third example, we're going to have 2x squared plus x minus 21. So starting off with the PSF method. Now our product is going to be our 2 times minus 21, so that will be minus 42. Our sum is just the coefficient of x, which in this case is just 1. And so we want two things that multiply to give minus 42 and add to give 1. So 6 and 7 multiply to give 42. Oh, that's a 4, not a 7. But to get a minus 42, we're going to need one of them to be negative. And because we're looking for a sum of 1, that means we want our larger number to be positive. So we're going to have a minus 6 and a plus 7. So that's going to tell us again how to split that middle term. So here we're going to have 2x squared minus 6x plus 7x minus 21. So now we'll factorise by grouping. So this one has a common term of 2x, and it's going to leave us with x minus 3. And this here has a common term of 7. So we're going to pull out our plus 7, and we'd have x minus 3. Then we can pull out our whole bracket, so we'll have x minus 3 outside of our 2x plus 7. All right, let's go through one more example. All right, so our fourth example, we're going to have 5x squared minus 7x minus 6. So again, starting off with PSF. So our product in this one would be our 5 times our minus 6 will give us a minus 30. Our sum will be our minus 7. And our factors in this one are going to have to be 10 and 3 would give us our 30. But because it's a minus 30, one of them is going to have to be negative. And we want to end up with a minus 7. So we're going to have a minus 10 and a plus 3 to get us our minus 7. So then we can split that term in the middle. So we're going to have 5x squared minus 10x plus 3x minus 6. Factorise by grouping, so these first two terms will pull out a 5x as our common factor, which will leave us with an x minus 2. And our second set, we're going to pull out our 3 as a common factor, which will leave us with an x minus 2 again. So that whole x minus 2 comes out as our common factor, and we're left with 5x plus 3. All right, so those are 4 examples of factorising non-monic quadratics. Like I said at the start though, this isn't the only method to do it. So if this is confusing, please come and ask me and I'll show you a couple of different ways as well.